From MontanaSports.com, this is MTN Sports Extra.
Welcome in everyone to Sports Extra. I'm Sam Hoyle. We're going to be recapping some of the best stories from the last week from our Montana sports team, starting with our top trending stories. We'll start this week hot as a major high school basketball record was broken this week. On Tuesday night, Lodge Grass senior Damon Grava poured on a Montana High School Association single game record, 71 points in Lodge Grass's 108-70 win at Huntley Project. Grava's 71 points propelled him past Elvis Old Bull's record of 1,948 points to become Lodge Grass's all-time leading scorer. The current career total of points stands at 1,986 for Grava. Melstone senior and University of Montana commit Drea Wacker is continuing her ascent up Montana's all-time scoring list with 32 points against Hobson Moore Judith Gap and 37 against Ekalaka. Wacker currently stands at 2,005 career points according to head coach Oli Ike. Wacker is coming off of a torn ACL suffered in late January of 2021 and does have a legitimate shot at cracking the top 5 within this month of February. As Reed points, Ellie Bersema sits 5th with 2,121. Let's talk some college hoops all the way from Florida. Raekwon Evans saving his best for last in an upset over the then number 6 ranked Duke Blue Devils. The Billings native and Skyview High grad converted a driving layup with 1.4 seconds left to help the Florida State men's basketball team force overtime against the number 6 Duke in an Atlantic Coast Conference game in Tallahassee. Then 12.3 seconds left in OT. Evans was fouled while driving, nailed a pair of free throws to give FSU the lead and win as their defense held on for Duke's final possession. The Seminoles defeated the Blue Devils 79-78, and man, was it pandemonium. In the middle of January at the Montana High School Association annual meeting, the MHSA voted to add shot clocks to boys and girls basketball, which comes as a celebration to some and to the chagrin of others. MTN's Kennedy Broadwell shows us why that is.
At the Montana High School Association annual meeting, athletic directors agreed to implement a shot clock in girls and boys basketball. But for some smaller Montana high schools, funding shot clocks may not be an easy task. Though the proposal was popular, John Odell, the activities and athletics director at Broadwater High School, voted against it.
We have a hard time in these post-COVID years. I guess we're still in the COVID years, but finding workers, and we're concerned about finding more workers, one more worker per game. And then obviously we have 2 gyms, and so that's a minimum of $20,000 to install shot clocks in both gyms.
Similar to Broadwater, Jefferson High School will have a hefty bill to pay, as their shot clock installations can cost them up to $50,000.
Our boards are outdated, so they'll have to be replaced too now. So we're looking at anywhere from $15,000 to $25,000 per gym, and we have 2 gyms.
Even bigger AA schools find themselves in similar positions as they use more gyms.
Especially one-time expenses aren't things that you technically plan for every year. So there'll be a process of identifying how we're going to pay for them. We have 4 gyms that we probably have to put shot clocks into, so that each gym that we use for our high school games all have that shot clock. We use obviously the 2 high schools, but then we also use our new elementary school gyms for our freshman games.
The question that remains for these schools is just how they're going to get the money to fund the shot clocks. While none of the schools seem to have a clear answer, some ideas have been mentioned, like getting sponsors or having a fundraiser. Dan Sturdivant says some schools want an extension on getting the shot clocks installed.
A few schools have asked to put it off for another year, and I know the High School Association is going to look at that, and they may give a school a waiver if they can't get it done. But right now it still stands. It will go into effect next year, next season.
In Helena, Kennedy Broadwell, MTN Sports.
So now let's bring in our 2 MTN reporters who have talked pretty much at length with athletic directors and activities directors about what this is going to mean. We're welcoming in Kennedy Broadwell here from Helena and MTN senior reporter Casey Conlon from Billings. How are you guys doing?
Good.
Great.
Sam.
Thanks, Sam.
Well, good. So I know obviously there is going to be, there's already pushback against the shot clocks. And I also know that there are some positives, some people who are looking at this as a positive light. But that doesn't really tell the full story. It seems like in talking with both of you, there are, not just cost issues, but also, staffing issues in terms of people to run the shot clocks at some of these smaller schools, these Class B and Class C schools?
Yeah, I think that's one of the things that I took away most was that, Class C schools are almost always, when it comes to staffing athletic events, volunteer based. A lot of these schools, can't afford out of their athletic budgets or their general budgets to be able to pay a number of people to come in at every JV, every varsity game that is played and run scoreboards and run now what will be the addition of shot clocks, which will be an entirely new person. And so ADs and head coaches and teachers at these schools are often the ones who have to do it themselves because there just aren't the bodies that they're looking for. And they're definitely worried that not only will you need another body, you're going to need a highly capable basketball mind to be able to run this, because a shot clock changes very quickly in basketball when a ball hits a rim. If it does or does not, change of possession, those types of things are going to be, you're going to need someone who really knows the game well to be able to do it.
Yeah, and I found the same thing over at Townsend. They are really concerned with COVID. It's already been hard for them to find staff. Now they need one more person per gym. They have 2 gyms, so they're a little nervous about that. And then they have to fund 2 shot clocks on top of that. And then, like you were saying, it's so much harder than what they're doing now to run the shot clock. And people are now nervous that how much time is this going to take resetting the clock when there's a mistake, because there's going to be a learning curve.
Now, I know we've briefly mentioned cost here. Obviously, the initial numbers are somewhere between $5,000 and $10,000, but that really all depends on on school districts. I know in Helena, there's going to be the need for 4 different shot clocks in 4 different localities. I mean, Casey, obviously these smaller schools, for the most part, they only have 1 gym. But I know Kennedy, in your reporting, you talked to a handful of schools in the Helena and surrounding areas about. It's not just this $5,000 to $10,000. It's also it very well could be $20,000 to $40,000.
Yeah, at some places it was up to $50,000 because they're going to have to get a whole new system in general. And the system itself was, I think, $25,000. And then when they had 2 gyms, you double it, you're at $50,000.
And so, Casey, I know in your reporting, obviously, there's going to be there's so many unanswered questions, and Kennedy, yours as well. What are some of the ideas that people have been floating around here, real quick?
Yeah, I've had several school ADs reach out to me since our story ran about 10 days ago, talking about different options that they've looked into. Chance Edmond, he's an AD in Eastern Montana, and he reached out and said they've looked into wireless shot clocks that could be just a couple of $1,000s each, that could be compatible with a lot of systems around. And so there are going to be options, and there are going to be multiple companies that are out there that hopefully can offer some of these smaller schools with smaller budgets the leeway to be able to make this work in the most cost-effective way that they can.
Yeah, I've heard a lot about different fundraising. At East Helena, I know they said it was just going to come out of the general fund, which then I saw a little bit of, I don't know, the parents weren't obsessed with that idea because, that's the same stuff that goes to their children's books and educational things. And so the pushback there that I've seen is that, okay, this is a school and I want that money to be used on educational resources.
Gotcha. Well, Kennedy, Casey, thanks so much for your time. I do greatly appreciate it. I know there's still a lot of questions that need to get answered. There's still a lot of questions that probably haven't even been asked before, first tip come next season. But I guess we're just going to kind of have to hang out and wait and see how things develop. Again, thanks so much for your time. Yeah, no problem. I do want to apologize to Chance. I said Eastern Montana. He's out in Stevie, Western Montana. My bad, Chance.
Thanks, Sam.
Hey, stick around because still ahead on Sports Extra, the Montana State women's basketball team has the hot hand to open the new year. That story and plenty more coming up after the break.
Download our free app and take MTN Sports with you. Just search Montana Sports in the App Store or Google Play. Welcome back to MTN Sports Extra. Powered by MontanaSports.com.
Welcome back to Sports Extra. Now we'll take a look at some of the best feature content from our Montana sports team, starting with the story of Laney Russell, a dual sport athlete. And while that might not seem super noteworthy, it's not all so often that you see a dual sport athlete doing both sports in one season. MTN first met Laney in December of last year, just as she was starting to balance both wrestling and cheer. And at first, it was a pretty daunting task.
It's really stressful this time. So I have practices 3:30 to 5:30, and then cheer practice 5:30 to 7. So my day's pretty much taken up. So it kind of like I have to find time for schoolwork.
Now, as the Helena High Bengal is prepping for her first ever state wrestling tournament, has it gotten any easier?
It's been overwhelming since the beginning, but at the same time, it's like I love it. I mean, I feel like I balance it pretty well, and I wake up now every morning expecting and knowing what I'm going into, and like pretty much dreading it throughout the school day, and then when I get to it, it's like the best thing ever.
Russell cheered for the Bengals this fall, and in a spur-of-the-moment decision, she opted to challenge herself and join the wrestling team for Helena High. And when she went to her head cheer coach, Alexis Navarrete, there was hardly a conversation.
And she came to me with her proposal of wanting to do wrestling, and I said, absolutely, contact that coach right now. I want you at their practices. You know, if it's something that you want to pursue, then absolutely go for it.
When MTN first caught up with Laney in December, we also talked to Helena High head wrestling coach Sam Bogard. And at that point in time, Laney had hit some highs and some lows, something her now head coach knew would be a crucial point for her.
She can't get down on herself. She's got to take every win and loss and learn from them. Her first loss this weekend, she didn't like that at all, and you know, I don't blame her. But you know, she's going to learn from it. And that's the first thing I looked at her. I said, so what did you learn?
So across the last few months of pulling double duty, what has Laney learned?
I learned that I'm a lot more resilient than I thought I was. I don't know, I always felt like I always put limits on myself and think I can't do things. And it wasn't until I did 2 sports and went into a completely new sport that I had no idea about, that it was like, I have faith now in my abilities and what I can do.
The other question, would she choose to do both cheer and wrestle at the same time come next year? Well, much like the die inside of a magic 8-ball, reply hazy, ask again later.
I don't think so. I plan on doing cheer season for football, and then I'll not do that, and then do wrestling season. So that way it's a little bit more balanced out. So we'll see, you never know, anything could happen.
In Helena, Sam Hoyle, MTN Sports.
4 home games, 4 wins for the Montana State women, who on Monday trounced arch rival Montana for the 7th straight time. These Bobcats know they have something special brewing this season, and against their biggest opponent, all the pieces came together.
I mean, you can put 1 through 13 kids in, and they're going to bring the exact same energy, whether they're starting or not.
That next Bobcat up mentality has lifted MSU to a 6-2 start in conference play and a 10-1 record at home. Along the way, junior guard Darian White became the newest addition to MSU's 1,000-point club. That accomplishment, paired with an electrifying win over the Lady Grizz, has White and the rest of her team energized and optimistic as they head into the middle portion of their conference schedule.
We are hungry, to say the least, and we're really excited. We're taking really big steps, I think, these last couple games, and we're going to keep building from that.
MSU's recent string of success has come while also battling that now ubiquitous opponent, COVID. The Bobcats opened their 4-game homestand with a win over Idaho and closed it out by beating Montana. Both of those games were makeups after the Bobcats had to reschedule due to COVID issues within Montana State's program.
You know, I think our kids are they're hungry to get to play. You know what I mean? We thought we were beyond this last year, and now we kind of got in the cycle again. We knew we were going to have a ton of games. We are not doing a whole lot in our practice, more than game prep and walkthroughs, and they're just getting a pretty decent rhythm of just competing and playing hard for each other.
The Bobcats now head for Eastern Washington on Thursday with a much different mindset than the beginning of the season, when they went 0-for-5 during a November road trip.
Our mentality is totally different right now. We lacked focus, we lacked energy, we looked fatigued. It was just kind of like an opportunity to just recharge when we hit that, and allowed us to get back to the identity of who we are. And so right now they're playing to that identity, and they're playing unselfish basketball.
In Bozeman, Luke Shelton, MTN Sports.
Hey, stick around because after the break, the Billings Skyview boys are on the hunt for their third straight AA title. What are the keys to their success? We'll tell you coming up.
Follow Montana Sports on Facebook and join the conversation with fans across the state. Welcome back to MTN Sports Extra, powered by MontanaSports.com.
The University of Providence women's basketball team is on a hot streak, winning 11 straight games, with 5 of them being against top 25 opponents, making the Argos a top 25 basketball team themselves. Fifth-year seniors and All-Americans Emily Maldonado and Parker Essery have been shouldering the load during their stretch, with Maldonado earning back-to-back Frontier Conference Player of the Week awards, averaging 18 points per game, while Essery is averaging 15.4 points per game on 58% shooting from the field.
Having me and Emily obviously be fifth years with Kirsten and Ellie, and we have a lot of girls who we've played together for 4 years, 3 years, and I think having that, we all get along really well, and it's kind of created a great bond.
Maldonado and Essery, like many seniors last year, had the chance to come back for a 5th year due to COVID-19. Many seniors across the country opted to graduate and move on past basketball, but for them, there was unfinished business.
Talked about it over the offseason, and I didn't know what I was going to do. I was still undecided, and then towards the end I wasn't ready to let it go, and so I think now with this season that we're having, it's been nice.
Definitely talked about it, and having the opportunity, especially with the COVID year kind of being taken away from us, I definitely felt like there was unfinished business, and I just kind of wasn't done yet.
But that's not all, folks. Throughout this season, the pair continue to surpass milestone after milestone. Both are close to surpassing 2,000 career points in the same career span, which if done will be virtually unheard of in the NAIA or the NCAA. Essery will more than likely end up a 5-time All-American, while Maldonado a 4-timer.
It shows a lot. I mean, seeing both of our names up there, we came in together starting as freshmen and now finishing it with the 5th year. I think that's just the biggest opportunity that we were given, and we were able to achieve a lot.
Despite the duo's success, it's been a matter of trust that has propelled the team forward, with the team getting much-needed contributions from role players like sophomore Brooklyn Harn and junior Reed Hazard, which allowed the Argos to be holistically competitive through injuries and COVID-19 protocols.
And with those, we have a lot of trust. So Coach Bill was gone. We fully trust JC and Stephanie to lead our team, and we have great leaders on the team as well that we have trust in. And
it's huge for us, and so everybody's playing their role, and I think with that comes along our season, and I think playing for each other has made it an impact for us.
The Lady Argos are back at home Thursday, January 26th, for when they square off against Montana Tech. In Great Falls, I'm Dylan Foreman, MTN Sports.
It's not often that a Class AA basketball team gets the opportunity to go for a 3rd consecutive state championship, but that's exactly what the Billings Skyview boys are doing this season. The Falcons split a state title in 2020 and won it outright last season. There's some new faces on this year's team, but one of those key holdovers is senior guard Peyton Sanders.
And it was even more important that Peyton was out those first couple preseason games, because the other guys got to step up and fill those roles, kind of get those jitters out of the way, and just feel what it's like to be on the varsity pace and on the varsity floor. It's definitely a different pace in the JV. We're just hoping within our program that it just builds like that we go through, and from the JV level, it just turns over into a good varsity experience.
Skyview briefly played without its floor general, but the Falcons are undoubtedly a better team with Sanders out there running the show. In fact, he's currently 7th in Class AA in scoring at 16 per game and 2nd in assists at 5.5 a night. But the question coming into the season was who would step up next to Sanders.
Someone said it was a good band name. I think Shirting said that. It was Peyton Sanders and the Unknowns, That was kind of the mindset. Like I was telling these guys like the Lane and the Reese and all those that they need to just be ready, and when their name's called that they'll have to step up. But now hopefully at the box scores and as we get into games, all these kids coming off the bench for us, the juniors and the sophomores and the seniors too as well.
I got to get everybody the ball and everybody to score, because they gotta be comfortable, and I gotta give them the opportunity, just like I got the opportunity. You just gotta throw them into the fire. They're gonna survive. This is the varsity level, so you gotta bring it.
Now, Skyview stumbled a bit this past week, losing to both Billings West and Billings Senior, the Falcons' first 2 losses in conference play. Skyview will learn from those games as they move towards the postseason and will look to be playing its best ball in a matter of weeks.
We just need to work on ourselves, turnovers, making shots, just the whole gameplay. We have a long ways to go, and we're here for it. We're here to go the long run.
Skyview back in action on Thursday at Bozeman-Gallatin. For MTN Sports, I'm Alec Boffinger.
And don't you move a muscle unless it's to grab another drink, because after the break, we'll take a look at some of the best plays over the last week when we return.
There's more action online at montanasports.com. Now, here are your MTN Sports Extra game changers.
Now let's get into your game changers. At number 5, MSU Billings women facing number 19, Alaska Anchorage, trying to sweep the Seawolves for the first time since 1999. Danielle Zahn banks it in at the horn. The Florence Carlton native helps MSU Billings get it done. Jackets win and sweep. At number 4, Braden Cook, putting the entire Western AA on notice with this dunk right here over Helena. Cook, a Carroll College commit, and Helena Capital Bruins ran away with this game. Staying with some dunks, let's head to Class C as Walker Doman from Winnet Grass Range making some grown man moves for the Rams, just floating through the air on this dunk. You can find his story on montanasports.com. With Senko Whitewater, Hinsdale's Tegan Erickson chasing down the ball handler, says, "Get that stuff out of here." The bench loving every second of it. Now let's check out your top play. Time winding down for Shoto against Townsend. They're down by 1. The inbound bobbled, but picked up by Shoto. The heave, it's caught. The ball up, down, game. Shoto completing the miraculous comeback to get out of Dodge with a win. The Townsend student section can't believe it, and those are your game changer plays of the week. Well, that will do it for this week's edition of Sports Extra. Thanks so much for joining us. We'll see you back here next week with a new Sports Extra. Have a great night.